Truth. Unforbidden.
The other day there was a shootout in your prison. Tell me what went down that you could see.
Well, like, here's how it happened. The first, it was like, I think it was about 10:30 or 11 o'clock in the morning. I don't really know what time it was because I was busy. Actually, I was writing. I'm writing a second book, and so I was like editing. I'm finishing it, and I was editing it, and I was busy with it. And I heard a commotion, but I didn't hear what it was, and then I heard some gunfire, and I'm like, oh, shit, basically. And so in order to see what was going on, because it wasn't in my sector, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, there's sector A, B, C, D, and E here in this prison. I'm in sector C, which is the terrible sector, but the gunfire was actually in the sector D, which is right in front of us, and I can see it out the window, but I have to stand on the sink to look out the window and see it. So I got up on top of the sink, and I looked out the window, and you could just see, like, people running everywhere. Didn't really know what was going on. And so and all the boys here are, like, excited. You hear them all screaming, like, gunfight, balacera. Balacera means, like, shootout. So I'm like, oh, crap, that sucks. So I didn't really get that excited about it because it wasn't in my sector. I mean, we're not involved in it, so much. But you hear it, you can hear the report of the pistols. And there was no AK-47. Sometimes they fight with AK-47s. Now, we're talking about prisoner on prisoner here. But this was just small arm fire, like handguns, 9mm and 9mm. There were no revolvers. Actually, it was all 9mm stuff, and so like Glocks and stuff. So that went on for about 10 minutes at best, and then a half an hour later, I received an audio, something that had been recorded by the prisoners standing beside the guardhouse, and you could hear, the radio of the guard. You could hear it, and I actually sent it to you. You can play it for the public if you'd like to later. And I sent you the translation of what was said, and it was just a couple of guards in an exchange screaming for help.
¿Cómo que se prendió o qué?
A todos. Estamos asustados el puto ya. Apoyo, se prendió, ¿está claro? Apoyo, cuando dicen apoyo, ahorita mismo su
Sector C, where I am, is guarded by the police, but Sector D is not guarded by the police, so there are no guns there, and the guard staff there are no firearms. The actual authorities don't have firearms, but the prisoners do. As mad as that sounds, so the authorities were screaming on the phone, asking for the police to come and give help. And so that's where I left. I think this was Saturday. Saturday would have been the 25th, I think, of November. Anyway, so that's where I was left. The 26th, I think it's the 26th of November. Excuse me. This is the year 2022, also. So that's where I was left for a little while, and everything was normal over here. Everybody was talking about what was going on up there and how we don't know what's happening. And then somebody calls and says we hear there's 3 that have been killed and 9 that are going to the hospital. And so we didn't know, what was going to happen. They came at 2:30 and closed us down here, and then locked everybody down at 2:30, which is not normal. They usually lock everybody down at 5:30. They locked everybody down at 2:30, and all the police from here went there to do a big search. And in the search, I also sent you a photograph of what was netted from the search. I don't remember how many, but 8 or 9 pistols, Glock 9mm, a bunch of knives and cell phones and things like that. So that's what I knew for a while. And then I spoke to a guy who's there yesterday, and he was telling me what went down, and it was just a personal beef between two gangbanging kids, the rival gangs who had a rivalry or, a hatred between them, and they were all outside. They don't get outside patio very often, outside time. You only get that once every 2 weeks for like 2 hours. I mean, the rest of the time you're in the building, you're loose, but you're inside the building. And so the security there is a lot less than it is here where I am. I'm in a maximum security area. That's a medium security area. And so one of the boys, had a couple of verbal exchanges over a period of a few days. And then one just went outside and shot the other one in the face, basically. And from there, the gang who lost a man began firing back, and everybody was scrambling for their guns, and so a 10 or 20 minute Roscoe fight, handgun pot shot battle ensued, and it's like in the movies. It's funny. I did a lot of things in my life. I was a hitman in the street for years, but I never like heard a lot of gunfire. Just the gunfire that you in that work. Not a whole lot of people are not shooting at you, but here you hear, just like in the movies, it's really true. You can hear the guns, the bullets grazing off the buildings and grazing out there, and they sing when they ricochet. They sing as they go through. So that's what went down here. The consequences of that, we haven't felt them yet. They haven't come down yet. We're curious to see what's going to happen. So this didn't last very long. The news media reported it, but they reported it as something that took place and only one person died. The news media reported that only one person died. That's not true. Three died and 9 were sent to the hospital. I don't know how many have come back. Now, and this is not a normal thing. It's normal that somebody's murdered here. Somebody's murdered here like almost every day. But it's not normal that they murdered with a firearm, first of all, because but gunshot wounds that result in death are actually investigated. So most people are killed by knives, so there will be no investigation. That's one thing. And then that 3 would die in one day is in a gun battle, an actual, shootout would happen. That's a once a year type of thing, So that's what happened here.
So being that you are a white American prisoner, do you become a target during riots or gun battles? Like, let's say it was to be on your pod or on your unit. Would you have to barricade yourself in there, or would they leave you alone?
One, I would barricade myself in. I would, but I wouldn't be at any more risk than anybody else. I know that I don't know that much about American prisons, just what I've been told, and I have a couple of friends who are in prison there, and I speak to them on a regular basis. And from what I understand, the American prisons are pretty segregated by your race. Like if you're a black guy, you're in one group. If one area, if you're a white guy, another area. If you're Latino, in another area. If you're Asian, you're in another area. So things here are not segregated that way because there's no racism. Panama has that concept of racism doesn't even exist here. It's not something that anybody even understands. And I think outside the UK or the United States, probably doesn't exist anywhere else in the world either. I don't know, but here in Panama, it certainly doesn't exist. What color you are and where you come from isn't really that big a deal. There's a little hate towards the gringos here in Panama simply because in the early 1990s, the Americans invaded and killed like 20,000 Panamanians or something to depose Noriega, and the Panamanians are. How can I explain it? The Panamanians detest the gringos. They hate them, but they're scared shitless of them and their government. So, like whatever tune that the U.S. Embassy jukebox plays here, that's what Panama dances to. And that kind of trickles down even into the government. I know that there's a slight bit of resentment towards me because I'm an American and I am in charge here in this area where I am in charge in the fact that I'm the gang mediator, I'm the pastor, I'm the only one that's loose, from 7 o'clock in the morning to 5:30 in the afternoon. Everybody else's time out is shorter, and I have some privileges, but I also do a lot of work. And the guys, I'm the pastor of their church, and so they love and respect me to a certain point. But there is, you can feel that resentment because of the whole American thing. But am I in danger because I'm a white? There's 2 white guys. There's 157 men here, and there's 2 white guys. There's me, and then there's Leo Morgan, who's a British gangster who's in another cell block down the way. Actually, it's on the absolute opposite end. Who's just a wonderful man, a good friend of mine. But we're the only 2, quote unquote, a gringo white guys here. And both of us, he's in charge of his cell block and I'm in charge of mine. So the racism thing doesn't, it doesn't exist outside the United States. And people can't even believe that until you get out of the States, and people don't even understand what you would even mean. Why would that even be an issue? And so it's pretty cool, actually, in that part. I don't feel like I'm a target because of the color of my skin or because I'm an American, not even really that either. So, but I would barricade myself in to answer your question simply because I ain't taking a chance because bullets, spare bullets don't ask permission for who they kill, and so and a lot of people have been killed by spare bullets here. And with the door, I got a big metal door here, and with the door shut, and laying up on my bunk there, reading the book, or reading the Bible, or praying, or just being cool while World War III is going on, I'm pretty safe.
So let's say there's a prisoner that's like non-gang affiliated, and they're just minding their own business throughout this gun battle. Do they become a casualty too, or do they leave them alone?
No, I said definitely leave them alone. I mean, you're going to want to go away. When you start, if you're in an area where you see gunfire and see gunplay and feel the thing, you need to go to your cell and hide, you need to get out of there. And that's not so the funny thing is, that's not the instinct. The instinct of man is to go and see what's going on and be part of it. You should fight that instinct with all your being, because if you don't want to get killed, don't be involved. And if you're involved, yeah, they might kill you. But even if you're not affiliated or anything like that, like I said, again, a stray bullet can kill anybody, and it happens all the time. And so, like for instance, here in Panama, I think more people are killed in the street, not necessarily in prison, but in the street on accident than on purpose, because the gang violence is such that kids are always getting killed by stray bullets here in Panama, like all the time, like 2 or 3 a week in the country. And the country's only like 4 million people, so I mean that's a lot. You think about that, you figure 200 kids a year in a country, in a place the size of Jacksonville, Florida, 200 kids a year are getting murdered by stray bullets. I mean, you got to be careful here when you see gunplay, or you see that things are hot, or you see that something's going on. I mean, I'm hiding. I learned. I've been here 12 and a half years, 12 years and 7 months now. I've been here. I'm hiding, man. I'm going to my corner, and I'm trying to be small. Trying to not be seen, not be heard, and the authorities tend to come down on people hard on people who are involved, or even the spectators. I'm not a spectator, man. I'm going to hide. So that's what you'd want to do. You wouldn't want to be part of it, but you wouldn't be targeted because you're there, either. And but we don't take things like that. I wouldn't take any chances like that.
Since a few days ago, since this happened, I've noticed that the American media hasn't covered anything that's happening. But in 2019, the massacre in which I believe a dozen inmates were killed was reported. Why do you think that is, that they cover one thing and not the other?
There's a couple of reasons. One, there was 15 killed, actually. They originally reported 12. The New York Times reported 12, but it was 15 who were killed. And incidentally, that's what my book is about. I just finished a book called Concentration Camp 2000, and one of 3 stories that's in that book is the 2019 La Jolla Christmas massacre, in which 15 gang members were murdered in a 6-hour gun battle inside Pavilion 14 of a prison called La Jollita. And I had a couple of people comment things. He says, he calls it La Jolla, then he calls it La Jollita. I want to explain before I continue what that is. La Jolla complex is 3 prisons. Those prisons are La Nueva Jolla, where I am, La Jolla, which is the original, and La Jollita, which is like one that was built after La Jolla. So these 3 prison complexes together have 15,000 now. 15 I heard the other day. 15,000 prisoners in between those 3. Each facility has approximately 4,500, 5,000 prisoners. Okay, so what was the question? I'm so sorry. I can't even remember now.
Why you think the American media hasn't covered this story, but they did the La Jolla massacre in 2019?
Well, again, this is something that happens all the time here. So the American media, Panama's a tiny country that's kind of a backwater, really. I mean, it's not something. What do you know about Panama other than the Panama Canal? You don't know anything about it, and the Americans built that. So you don't really know anything about Panama, because it's just not. It's a country smaller than in population than South Carolina. So I mean, it's not something. It's a country with a population size of the Jacksonville, Florida area. So I mean, it's not. The media here is, geared towards Panama, and the American media is geared towards what's going on in America. In 2019, there was a gang battle inside Pavilion 14, which is the biggest gang in Panama, which is called Baghdad. The name of the gang is Baghdad. Split, and one faction went one way and one the other way, and a gun battle ensued with AK-47s and handguns inside the prison. that was covered by the BBC, New York Times. I mean, it was a big deal. 15 people getting clacked in one day in a prison riot. It's a pretty big deal. I mean, and like you and I were speaking earlier and talking about how if 3 people were killed in a gun battle in an American prison, it'd be like, national news. But here, this shit happens all the time, and so it's not. And the American media tends to not care about anything that happens outside of America or outside of Europe. So, I mean, like for instance, and this is a little politicalized. So you'll have to forgive me. Some of my views come out, but like if a bomb goes off in France, like it's the end of the world. But if 200 kids get killed in Saudi Arabia, or not Saudi Arabia, but in Syria, then who gives a shit about that? That don't even make news. And so it's the same thing here. Brown people don't matter, and that's the short answer to your question. Brown people don't matter, and it's unfortunate, isn't it? One of the reasons that the American media doesn't cover it is because the American government loves Panama's prison system. Panama's prison system is used by the Americans when they want to coerce someone into cooperating. In what way? How does that work? Well, the Americans find out that some Pakistani jihadist or some drug trafficker, hey man, keep recording, but I'm gonna call you back in just a few minutes because we're gonna have a head count here, and I'm not gonna be able to be talking to you while the head count's going on. So in like 10 minutes, I'll call you right back.
Okay, that works. So, I'll keep rolling. Okay, all right. So I know you said you're not sure what's gonna happen consequences wise, but going back to 2019, what were the consequences then, which I'm sure will be similar what will follow after this happening?
Well, one of the things is, of course, they have a huge search, which they did the day after. And when they have a big search like that, they come in and smash up all of your shit, all of your stuff. If you got a radio, they busted into a million pieces. You got a television, they busted into a million pieces. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're part of it, you're not part of it. Everybody, there's a Panamanian saying, "Todos pagan por pecador." Everybody pays for somebody else's sins. And so that's one thing that occurs. Another thing is, depending on how angry they are, they'll even spray your mattress. They'll spray the mattresses of the prisoners down with like pepper spray. So you can't even use a mattress. I mean, you can't use them. You have to air them out for 3 or 4 weeks before you can even use them. So I mean, like they'll cut your hammock in half. I mean, they come in to bust up your stuff, man. And so you're screwed that way. One thing. Another thing is they put pressure on, like, I'm worried about this right here myself. They put pressure on you for like the visit and stuff. They're meaner. what a term. They're sadistic about what they won't let in. They won't let your food in. Remember, I'm in a Panamanian prison where you got to buy your own food. You got to bring your own food in from outside. They don't feed you here. There is a state ration that comes, but it comes full of cockroaches and stuff like that. Now, all of these things, and one of the things we were talking about before, I wanted to go back and finish before the cops came and did the count. I wanted to go back and say that the Americans use the Panamanian prisons. Now we're talking about consequences right now, but I'm going back to your question before. Americans use Panamanian prisons as a way to coerce people that they want to cooperate with them. For instance, let's say that a Pakistani jihadist or a drug cartel guy is caught in Panama by Interpol. And now Interpol, what is Interpol? We need to talk about these things. What is Interpol? Interpol is not a police force. It's just an information sharing network. Interpol uses local police for all their policing and all their actions. They don't actually have like cops on the ground or anything like that. You don't see Interpol walking around with bulletproof vests on, like searching people and stuff like that in the street. That doesn't happen. What the Interpol guys are guys sitting behind a computer somewhere sharing information. So let's say that John Q. jihadist is here in Panama visiting some of his friends, and there are a lot of Arabs here, a lot. And so Middle Eastern folks here. And so let's say that he's here visiting, and they find out that he's wanted, and they have him. They call the Interpol guys call the Americans first, and they call the Panamanians, and they coordinate. The Panamanians will go pick him up. So the Panamanian DJ, which is their version of the FBI, goes and picks up the jihadist and sticks him here in Sector C, where I am. Well, after 6 months of this treatment, 6 months of being abused by other prisoners, 6 months of starving, 6 months of not being able to see or speak to your family, man, this guy's soft. He's ready to cooperate. So the Americans don't want to change the Panamanian prison system at all. And that's another reason that the American news media is not involved. We all have to realize that the news media and the government are basically the same thing in the United States anyway. And so they're never going to report anything that would make Panamanian prisons change, because the American government, aka also the media, loves that Panamanian prisons are a shithole, because it's the greatest coercion tool ever to cooperate. Now we go back to talking to consequences. The guys who are involved in the shooting, if they killed somebody, they'll get a case. They'll pick up a homicide charge. But most of those guys are serving 50 years anyway. 50 years of maximum sentence. You can't live 50 years in the Panamanian prison. That's a death sentence. Anybody gives you a 50-year sentence in Panama, you're going to die in prison if you can't figure a way to beat it. They gave me a 46-year sentence myself. I'm fighting my ass off to beat it, because you have a heart attack, you die. You have a stroke, you die. There's no medical care or anything here. Human rights are something that don't exist here where I am. And so this is a real difficult place. And when they want to punish you, they give you what's called a Panamanian death sentence. I'm writing about this right now because I have one. I've been given a Panamanian death sentence. What is that? It's a slang term that means when you've pissed off the government. And that doesn't mean that you're a big-time killer. That doesn't mean you're big-time violent. It doesn't mean that you behave poorly. It means that you've pissed some official off somewhere, and they want to kill you. They want you to die. They put you in where I am in Sector C. What's that? That's a place where they take away your human rights, and they don't feed you. They put you in with violent monsters, and let's see if you'll die. And if you don't die, maybe you'll kill yourself. Maybe they can put enough pressure on you to make you kill yourself. And a lot of people here do that. The suicide rate here is about 3% per year. Can you imagine that? It's extremely high. Imagine an American prison with a suicide rate of 3%. People would be screaming. But here in Panama, it's just business as normal. It's business as usual. It's just life. So consequences here are they can give you a Panamanian death sentence. They can put you in here where I am and try to make you kill yourself or make somebody else kill you. That has happened to all of the boys who are involved in the shootout. John Q. prisoner that lives there is just going to have a hard month or two, because they're going to smash up all your stuff, and then they're going to make it hard for you to live for a few months because they're angry at you. But then angry at everybody in that sector. And there's probably 1,500 guys there, and so those 1,500 guys are going to live tough. We're hoping over here where I am that it doesn't wash over into us, because right now I'm living at the easiest it's been in 3 years. I've been here for I've had a Panamanian death sentence for 3 years, 1 month, and like 7 days, and I've beat them so far. I'm the second oldest here. I'm the one that's lasted the second longest. And there's another guy here that's been here almost 6 years, 5 years and something. But I'm number 2 out of the 158 of us who are here. 158 of us that are here. I'm the second oldest here, meaning I have the second longest, 3 years and something. Like most people either find a way to get out or they die before they reach a year. They either find a way to get out or they die. So that answers your question, I hope.
So what's the protocol for the deceased prisoners, like the ones that end up being killed, when it comes to recovering their bodies? Do you know what that entire process is like?
I think the families probably are notified. I know they are. The families are notified, and I guess they come and scratch them up, and if not, they're left to rot in the morgue until the Panamanian government buries. The Panamanian government buries paupers about once a month, and they'll plant 30 or 40 or I don't know how many. I don't want to say. I haven't got a clue how many, but they bury paupers once a month or something like that. So they leave them on ice until they get enough of them to bury, and they go throw them in a hole, and then next, they wait until next month to bury them again. So I think that's probably, that's that.
So is there like a prison cemetery or like an unmarked prison cemetery around the prison grounds?
The cemeteries are really weird in Panama, actually. Listen to this. I painted a mural on the wall. I'm not an artist, but when you're in hell, you get bored, and you find things to do. And so I painted a really crude second-grade painting. It's not good. It's not like something, oh, wow, that's so good. No, it's just like a drawing you did in the third grade, on the wall of a church. And I painted a cemetery by the church, and everybody started laughing. And they're like, Bill, you're such a comedian. You're dark humor. I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, a cemetery at a church. I'm like, where are your cemeteries? Are your cemeteries not at churches? And they're like, no. Their cemeteries are like really dilapidated places that nobody wants to go. Like, an American cemetery or a British cemetery is a really pretty place, actually. It's, it's kept up well. And a Panamanian cemetery is like, it's just like one hair ahead of a garbage dump. I mean, it's a terrible place, And so that those things don't translate one to another, really. I mean, they're just, literally, they scratch open a hole and throw 40 paupers into it and cover it back up, and maybe they put a headstone with everybody's name on it. Maybe not. And so, I mean, that's a cemetery here. And cemetery is a place you don't want to go. In America, cemetery is a place people visit. The cemetery here is a place you don't even want to go. It's not a pretty place. It's not well kept up. And a lot of brujeria, witchcraft that goes on in cemeteries here. There's a lot of brujos, a lot of witch doctors and witches here in Panama. There's a lot of that sort of stuff. I don't speak one way or another about it, but like a witch doctor or a witch in Panama is nothing like what you think of a witch in the States. You think a witch is some cute chick that's like from Wicca or something that's got a bunch of piercing. Here, a witch doctor is, a fairly thoroughly evil person who goes like cast hexes on people and stuff like that for money. So, and they're shysters as well. They do a lot of. I've heard some incredible things, and we're getting off subject, but that's kind of giving you a general overview. Now, listen, I'm going to prostitute myself for just a second before I answer your next question. If you're listening to this and you find it remotely interesting, I want to invite you to come interact with me. You can interact with me on Instagram at Holiness Bill, or on Facebook in the Facebook group Friends of Brother Bill. Now, it's at Holiness on Instagram and Friends of Brother Bill on Facebook. I've got a book that's out right now too. Andrew's read it and really helped me some in the publishing process as well, called Long Live the King, Wild Bill. It's about my first year in prison, when my attempt to escape justice again, and then I was captured, and in my first year in the adjustments I had to make to get into after they crammed me into third world prison. I mean, you can imagine what that was like. It was pretty incredible, actually. And so there's nothing like that out on the market anywhere. It's a memoir about 6 months before I was arrested and 1 year after I was arrested. That's called Long Live the King, Wild Bill. It's got great reviews. You can go check it out on Amazon. There's a lot of things I want to talk about real fast while we got the chance. One of them is I'm writing a book called Concentration Camp 2000. I wrote a book before. I just used the time here to talk about it, but Concentration Camp 2000 deals directly with the massacre that we talked about, and then also with Sector C, where I am in the soft torture facility here in Panama, how it works, everything about it. Now, what I did when I wrote Concentration Camp 2000 should be available in about February of 2023. You should be able to find Concentration Camp 2000 on Amazon by me, William Wild Bill Holbert. Concentration Camp 2000 is like so much better than Long Live the King, Wild Bill. I think it's like really a crowning achievement in my life, and it shows how I've evolved as a writer as well. But what I did is I thought that event, 15 people being killed in a gun battle inside prison between prisoners, is such a crazy thing. It's so difficult for somebody on the outside to even understand. So I explored it from every angle. I talked to everybody who was involved in it. I talked to people who were visiting at the time, and like there was a kid who got his skull crushed and lost an eye in that, and by the authorities, actually the police crushed the kid's skull with a. It's a long story. You got to read it. A visiting child, a child who was about 8 years old, and he lost an eye, and he actually broke his skull beating him, because they beat the family members as well as the prisoners during the police did. And so it's a crazy thing, and I wanted everybody out there to understand what happened and how something like that, how could there be a prison with firearms inside? How could that even work? And those things are explored in Concentration Camp 2000. So another thing is Panama likes to hide these prisons because, like, for instance, Panama's neighbor, Costa Rica, doesn't have prisons like this. There are prisons like in the United States. They're good prisons, And so Panama likes to hide their shithole prisons the Americans in the Canal Zone built a prison called El Renacer, which means the rebirth. And when they left in 1999, they turned that prison over to Panama, and Panama turned that into a country club prison for their elite prisoners, people who are famous, people who come from, if you have the right last name from the right family, you can get in there, and there's only about 800 people there, and it's a first world minimum security prison. It's really nice. What I wouldn't give to be doing my time there, that's where I really should be. I mean, with my record as you know, as pastor of the church and everything here and helping, I should be there, but I'm not there. And that prison is the prison that they take the UN inspectors to. Every time the UN inspectors come to inspect the Panamanian prisons, they take the inspectors there to that place. They don't bring them here to see hell. They take them there, and the UN inspectors leave saying, "Wow, Panama's really right on top of the human rights. They're doing such a good job." You know, and it's a bullshit, because there's 800 prisoners who are well treated and, you know, and rich, wealthy prisoners, and they didn't come to see the 15,000 starving, rotting, leprous colony of buffoons that we have here. They didn't see that, and they never see that. So that's one thing that I want to explore. I want to show that to the world. Somebody needs to know about that. Somebody needs to know about a place where so much death and destruction and lack of human rights exists. And a lot of people say, "Well, they're all murderers." You think so? Is that what you think? I want to tell you about why you're wrong about that. I'm a murderer. I'm guilty, but not everybody is here. The United States and England, I'm taking them both, you know, as a generality, the UK and the United States, have a homicide resolve rate of about 65%. That means between 40 and 35% of homicides go unresolved. And that's with the CSI, that's with all the super duper, you know, forensic crap that they have in the States and in the UK. In the Republic of Panama, 98% of homicides go resolved. How is that possible? They don't even have anything like a forensic. And the answer is they just put a body with a crime. Oh, you were there. You've been charged with something. You've been charged with theft in 1997. You were near a murder. You're the murderer. They put you in prison. If you ain't got no money, you go down for 30 years. So Panamanian prisons are full of people who didn't do anything wrong at all. They're full of them. The injustice right here, you think it's bad in the States. You hear them crying about it in the States. You ought to come here and see it. I mean, a third of the people here are serving time for shit that they didn't do, and that's the truth. Now, I'm guilty of sin. I deserve my sentence. I'm paying it. I'm giving back to the community. I'm running the church, trying to get human rights groups to come and be involved here. And I need you, the listeners, even if you don't care about human rights, I need you listeners to come and follow me on Instagram. I need you listeners, you guys, anybody who wants to talk to me, anybody that wants to talk to me can do that. They can come and find me and can contact me directly through Facebook at Friends of Brother Bill, or they can contact me through Instagram at Holiness Bill on Instagram, and Friends of Brother Bill on Facebook. You come send me a message, I'm going to respond to you. I respond to every message. Sometimes it takes me a little time, but I respond to every message, and you can see there's a lot of video content on Instagram, and there's a lot of more intimate stuff on Facebook as well. So you guys come and check it out, and then drag your asses over and buy my book. Support me. I'm dying in here. I'm starving to death. Literally, it takes me about $300 to $400 a month to live, and sometimes I don't get that, so I can't make that. So go buy my book. Every time I buy a book, I make about $5 or $6. So it's called Long Live the King Wild Bill. It's a great ride as well. It's a hilarious story. It's the truth. There's humor in it, but I mean, it's just what actually happened. Also about how it talks about in the book how I, came to terms with the fact that I'd wrecked my life and wrecked a whole lot of other people's lives as well, and what I decided to do about it. How I decided to change. If a man like Wild Bill can change and become Brother Wild Bill, pastor of the church, then anybody can change on the outside, but it's going to take a lot of work. And so anyway, that's it. Also, if you're a podcaster and you're listening to this, or if you have a publication and you're listening to this, if you have any kind of show at all, and you want to do an interview with Wild Bill, you can just reach out to me there on Instagram at Holiness Bill, or on Friends of Brother Bill on Facebook, and get a hold of me and let's do a show. Andrew here got me started. He gave me my first opportunity to speak, and I'm so thankful to Unforbidden Truth. Unforbidden Truth always holds a place in my heart. And actually, I haven't talked to Andrew about this, but I'm going to say it right now. I asked Andrew if he won't write a blurb or a little. I'm going to send him a copy of my book and ask him to read it and see if he won't write a blurb for it, like what his thoughts of it are on the back of the book, because he's such a personality in the States now. Andrew's come a long way, and I'm just really thankful to be here, brother.
Awesome. Well, thank you. We'll do it again and again in the future, and thank you again for your time.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm gone.
Unforbidden.